Thanks for joining me on Adam Scott Live.
Oh, thank you for joining me on Quinta Brunson Live.
Yeah, it's weird that we're taping our shows at the same time.
Yeah, but it's a new initiative, and I was down to try it.
New concept, and I'm the first one to try it.
Yeah.
Hi, Quinta.
My dog, Adam.
That's me. This is cool that we're finally shooting our pilot, Quinta and Adam live.
I know. We've talked so much about it.
Yeah, years.
And finally the world can see what we have to offer as the best guest host the world has ever seen.
I can't wait for everyone to see it. But since it's live, they're seeing it right now, so that's cool. Yeah, anything you do, it's live. It's on TV. Abbott Elementary is your show.
Yes.
And I love your show so much. My family and I, it's our show. We go through phases of watching a show together, and we can't watch it unless all four of us are there. And we've moved through, and Abbott is our latest and greatest.
Yay, that's my favorite thing to hear about it, by the way.
It's
like family appointment viewing.
Totally, which is really hard to find. Something that you can watch, and they're teenagers now too, so it's hard to find something that we all want to watch but is also like cool enough for them, because it used to be, you know, Bob's Burgers was it for a while.
Right, yeah, absolutely. They can't all gather and watch Severance?
No, we can, but it makes me far too nervous.
Got it, so yeah. You know, Miss Howard, you remind me so much of my favorite teacher from the 3rd grade, Miss Elliott. She was well-dressed, good with kids, a wizard with a glue gun.
Thank you, Janine. That is very kind of you.
I wanted to be just like her, actually. I was, like, obsessed with her. She wrote in my report card note, needs friends her own age, a bit clingy. She was a hoot.
We chatted a couple months ago, and I know something you mentioned that I thought was really interesting was how much a fan you are of the network sitcom and the idea of creating something that can be broadly sent out to all households and anyone can watch. And then it's funny because then you were, you know, kind of being credited with reviving the network sitcom.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that lands with you. That's a bold, big statement.
I know.
Yeah.
I've seen that. You know, this experience has really taught me that I can't control what people say, good or bad. I don't know. It's been interesting because I do think that while Abbott has been successful, which I'm super grateful for, I think people have been doing great work in the network space for a really long time. Like, I would be lying if I didn't say I knew that Young Sheldon has been pulling in massive numbers. Even their reruns do. There are shows this season even, like Ghost on CBS, which is really great, just a joyful, delightful show to watch. American Auto and Grand Crew on NBC. I felt like a lot of people helped make the network space exciting again. I really feel that way. It was a combined effort, and I think that Abbott just feels like a great show for everyone to connect that narrative to.
But kind of a culmination of this revival that's happening more broadly.
Yeah, I have had people tell me, and I've done it myself. They're like, yeah, I watch American Auto, then Grand Crew, then Abbott, then Blackish. Like, people like went back to like TGIF again with, you know, network sitcoms. So, and I think people are missing that feeling because, you know, you were part of it. Parks and Rec was that for me. I enjoyed having this thing that I could watch with friends and family that was easy. I think what was exciting about that time with Parks and Rec is Parks and Rec felt like a risk. Like that like era of television felt like risky TV where you were like almost couldn't believe you were seeing this on network sometimes. And that is a feeling I think that Abbott brings back. I think it brings back I'm used to maybe getting this on HBO, but or you know, or a streamer or cable. That's right. But
there's something about Abbott that's that great mixture of these razor sharp jokes and a little subversion here and there, like that, which is just so it's so deeply funny. But also the kindness in the show, and my mom was a public school teacher, so there's something that kind of hits me squarely in the heart every week watching the show because it's so clear that you have and affection and such a respect for teachers, and you really don't see that. It's a really specific thing that you don't see that much in entertainment.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, first, I didn't know your mom was a public school
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah.
I don't know if you said that before, but
I don't think I did
amazing.
to you, but
you talked to me a lot about Star Trek. I remember.
I did.
Yeah.
That was our full 3-hour conversation. With Star Trek.
With that affection, the one you're talking about is one I'm sure you share. It's different to have a teacher, and it's different to be a student. But to be a child of a teacher, I think, is a unique experience. I went to the school where my mother taught. I was in her kindergarten class, and then I was at the school where she taught for the next 5 years. So I spent so much time with her riding to school, being, in school. But the relationship she had with my teachers was different than other parents to teachers. It was, let's talk about Quinta, but let's also talk about this new curriculum that's coming in, or this new principal, or this change that they're making this year. I just got to hear so much. And then after school, watching her work more while I was in the classroom with her. And then we'd go home, school would go out at 3, but we'd go home at about 5 or 6 by the time everything was said and done. And I'd sit there and play on her computers, but listen to her have discussions with parents and other teachers and administrators, and then we go home and she'd work even more, yet somehow still put food on the table. And so naturally I have this, I think, an insight that most people don't have, but I also have such a respect for the profession and a love that was formed through the love for my mother, but through her loving her colleagues. I came to love the people that she surrounded herself with. But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about your show, and actually this article just came out. I'm not sure if you saw it. It was talking about Severance and Abbott and exploration of the workplace. I see your face and Barbara Howard's face, and I was like, why are these two together? But it was really insightful about how we look at the American workplace.
Yeah.
And Abbott brings forth this space where you can find love in the treachery of it all.
Yeah.
And how on your show, the same thing happens with this group of people
Yeah.
by the end. And I thought that comparison was so interesting. And I know that you didn't write that show or anything, but you're balancing so much because you're two people.
Yeah.
What was that like from day to day? Do you just tap in the morning and say, here's where we are at this scene? Or what's that like?
I remember getting there in October of 2020. I just went straight to the set from the airport because I wanted to see what Ben Stiller had been putting together with his team. Been looking at photos on my phone for a long time. And so I went there and saw the sets.
Yeah, where was that?
It was on a stage in Queens.
What?
Yeah, and they built that main office with the green carpet
Right,
and
that's
the low
in-
ceilings and stuff.
In Queens.
And then all those hallways that they built too. So once I actually stepped onto the set and saw kind of the enormity of it, I started getting a little freaked out. I assume this is about me acting as department chief today. Okay, well, I mean, I've subbed for PD before, so it shouldn't be that big a thing.
PD is no longer with this company.
I'm sorry?
I said PD is no longer with this company.
Amy Poehler used to call it starting a new show. You're at the bottom of show mountain, and you're at base camp, and there is a sheer face in front of you.
Yeah.
And you just have to chip away.
Yeah.
And find the show.
Right,
too.
exactly.
When it's a brand new show, it's a whole the show mountain is right in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's ill-defined.
Yeah, I remember being nervous about that with, I was assured, I knew that that Abbott was going to be good, but it's whoa, I did the pilot. Now we have a whole show to, chip away at. I totally get that, yeah.
And you usually, shows take something that Abbott was assured right from the start, but often shows take a little while to find themselves. Sometimes the first 5 or 6 episodes are a little shaky, but it's something that Abbott was great.
Thank
great
you.
with
I
out of the
credit
gate.
a lot of the other shows before me, shows like Parks and Rec, The Office, I mean, Good Place, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I it was amazing getting to watch all my favorite comedies and even older ones like the Andy Griffith Show or like King of Queens, which is like one of just my old favorites.
Yeah, yeah.
And just being like, okay, I see what to do, I see what not to do, I see what to do, and I hope it works out. But there would be like no, presumably solid first season of Abbott without me really studying all of the other comedies and trying to now I'm scared because I'm like, damn, I got nothing to build to.
Season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys set up season 2 really well in the finale.
Yeah, thanks. I was like,
You teed up some really interesting stuff.
yeah. We didn't get the benefit of they'll get it by season 3. People were like, no, it was just good. And I'm like, dang, I got nowhere to. It's okay, I'll figure it out.
The praise started pouring in for Abbott, and people started putting, I would imagine it felt like pressure to you in particular. Were you still shooting the show, or was it all shot?
No, thank God it was all shot.
Oh, that's great.
Thank God it was all shot, because that just got to bounce off of me and be like, cool. Whether it's loved or hated, there's nothing I can do about it.
You shot it in a bubble.
Shot it in a bubble, which I understand that I will never feel that again. I cherish that bubble that we got to be in, from the writer's room to the actual filming of the show, because there's where we got to build something really sweet. I want us all to stay with that. I'm like, let's pretend we made this show and we knew it was good. We all knew that.
Yep.
Let's do the same thing. Let's pretend we're going to watch it the first season together as a group, and we, the people who made it, will say, well, here's where we naturally want the story to go next season, instead of taking in all. I think about that with you guys all the time, people who are part of these legacy sitcoms before the internet really exploded, because I feel like when Parks and Rec was airing, I know Twitter was a thing, but it wasn't as powerful as it is now. And I felt like because of that, did it feel like the people who made that show and you guys got to be in a bubble for longer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little unique because I started late. I started end of season 2 when it was already sort of defined, and I was a fan of it, kind of walking into it. I think.
Well, even with like Party Down, you got to.
Party Down is a really good direct comparison because we made that first season. Not only did it not air while we were making it, but when it did air, no one watched it anyway. So even when we made season 2, we were still in that bubble.
Yeah.
And what that bubble was. And it was so valuable was we were making the show just for each other and for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that's enough.
Yeah.
Because if you're making something that feels good with your friends, you don't need anything else.
You really don't.
And everything that it kind of eventually caught on long after it was canceled, which is great. But there's nothing like that feeling when you're connecting with the people you're working with and you're all really into it.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
We all were just so in love with what we were making.
Yep.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, about the internet's place and how we receive our own work. Like with Severance, that was made before it started airing, right?
That's right.
Did that feel good?
Yeah, because also we shot the whole thing at once, so we weren't going episode by episode. We were like shooting.
Was there a pilot and then a pickup, or was it completely?
No, we just shot all 9 at the same time. Okay. So we were shooting like something from episode 1, and then after lunch we would shoot episode 8, and then like through.
Oh wow!
We did that, and it took like 10 months.
You find out what happened?
She's in the break room.
Shit. Is that because of us?
And we're not allowed in the outer hallways anymore till we hit quota. So no more interdepartmental visits.
I was talking to a friend who's also a writer about a show having a soul, right? Like, it's very made up by the people who create the thing, and how, to me, that's what makes it stand the test of time these days. And I feel like Severance has a soul. Like, I was drawn into the show. And I wasn't even sure why. I'm not a big thriller person. I am a big Adam Scott fan. I am. That's true. So maybe it was partly you. But then I was drawn, and then past the cliffhangers, I was drawn into kind of the soul of the show, the feeling of like, well, now I work at this company, and now I got to figure out what the hell is going on. And I think that's a great feeling. It's something I wanted to capture with Abbott. I wanted people to feel like they went to Abbott. To feel like they went to our school, walked the hallways. And, Abbott has jokes, but the jokes are also dependent on the people and the writers are making each other laugh,
Yeah.
and the characters in the show.
And then that making its way down to the set and connecting with them.
With them,
Yeah.
which to me creates the soul.
That's right.
I assume that Severance, although not a comedy,
Yeah.
has a soul, but is it different from comedy to a thriller?
Yeah, it is different. And that Severance was unique also because we were shooting during pre-vaccine COVID when it was like, because we started shooting the day after the presidential election in November of 2020.
Yeah.
And so it was in New York, so everything was really kind of locked down, and so it was sort of this isolation of shooting the show. And you don't even see anyone on the crew's faces, which it's still sort of like that,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
But it was just so much more buttoned up and tightened down because it was pre-vaccine. So we would shoot the show, and right after cut, everyone puts their things and their shields up and everything, and then I at least was living in an apartment by myself away from my family and stuff. So I would just go to this apartment and sit by myself and sleeping and then waiting to get picked up again in a van and then going to Queens, shooting, and then getting in the van again. So it kind of started this pattern that felt very sort of isolated and sort of parallel to the show in a way, kind of emotionally. And I think also when we were on set together, the actors, that was our time during the day to be around people and be able to connect with seeing each other's faces. And I think the characters too are kind of yearning for connection.
So tied in.
Yeah, and each of us were sort of isolated when we were away from the show. So I think there was a sort of emotional pattern that emerged in making the show where some sort of unanticipated parallels emerged because we were originally going to start shooting before the pandemic hit. And so it was all unintended. But yeah, I think if you were going to kind of find the soul of the show, it might be somewhere in there, yeah.
I broke protocol this morning. I was dusting the old group photos, the ones with PD, and it just made me feel sad. So I took them from the cubicles and put them in the storage closet, which we're not supposed to do.
Okay, I have some rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Where was the outside? Was that computer generated or is that outside of Lumen real? The
building?
driving up to Lumen, that situation?
That's a real building
Really?
in New Jersey. It used to be Bell Labs back in the day where they would develop technology and like.
Oh, we still don't know what Lumen does. I forgot about that.
What's that?
We still don't know what Lumen does, unless I missed something.
Generally, it's like one of those companies that's been around for a long, long time, where you're like eating your cereal and you're like, wait, they make this?
Yeah.
And they also make my light bulbs? But I think also they have this culty vibe
Which
as
is
well.
what's weird. I don't know if it was the intentions, but that led over into religious territory for me, which, you know, companies can feel like a cult.
Sure.
But I saw parallels into religion that really stuck with me way more as someone who's just obsessed with researching every religion. And I do think about cults. They're just fascinating to me. The Egan stuff, I was like, ooh, that is very interesting and making a comment that I like very much.
Oh, cool.
Okay, back to my rapid fires.
Sure.
Is Zach Cherry really that funny?
Yeah.
He's so funny.
He's the best.
What a darling.
Do you not know Zach?
So I don't know him, but yesterday I said, I'm gonna look up this guy.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
He's so funny.
And he follows me on Twitter, and I didn't know, I'd seen his name around, but I didn't know that was him.
You want me to tell him to stop following you?
No,
Twitter?
please. Okay. I should follow him back. Stop being. This is what I did in my brain last night. I was like, it's going to be so weird to follow him back now that I saw him on a show, so I'm not going to follow him back. But I'll follow him. He'll see this and be like, why not just follow me at this
He's
point?
like one of those people. I remember seeing him on Pete Holmes' show,
Crashing.
And he's one of those guys that I would rewind his bits on that show because he just made me laugh so hard.
Is he in Spider-Man?
He was in Spider-Man.
He is in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I've just been happy out the loop until things come to me sometimes. It's okay.
Until they're served on a platter in an apple.
By Apple.
Apple show.
Speaking of culty. Anyway, but you don't have to use that part. That's okay. I used to work there, and so that's
You
what's
did?
interesting.
What
yeah.
What did you
I
do?
did. My publicist told me to stop talking about it, but I was just in FRS and like a lot of this stuff.
What's FRS?
Oh, sorry, you wouldn't even know what that means. I'm sorry, I just said that. Family room specialist, fancy name for I fix your phone and your watch and your iPad and
At the Apple Store?
at the Apple Store.
Oh, whoa.
Okay, my last rapid
yeah,
fire.
yeah.
You are so good in this. You're also so good in Big Little Lies.
Thanks.
You're also so good in Parks and Recreation. And then you're good when you show up in places being. I like rewatched Step Brothers the other night, and it used to be my favorite movie in the world. But then I've watched you so much now in these other projects that I was like, I can't believe that's Adam Scott. Like, because when I was younger and I was watching it, I didn't know who you were.
Yeah.
But now I'm going back and I'm like, holy shit. Like, do you feel like you change what you're doing? Or do you feel like a constant, a nexus being? Like you just show up in places
And do the same
and
thing.
do the same
It's just your
thing?
surroundings that change?
Yeah, do you feel like that sometimes?
I think theoretically, I would like to think that it does. It's just the material and your kind of circumstances that dictate what you're doing, and as an actor, you should just always be doing the same thing. But I don't think that's really what I do. I think you have to adjust depending on what
Slightly.
you're doing, right? Like if you have some jokes to hit,
Yeah.
you have to change and navigate that differently than you would if you're just trying to honestly. I don't know. I don't know. I've been thinking about that more lately because it's
Me too.
more of a dramatic thing, and it's just a different responsibility when you're doing a network sitcom.
Yes.
You need to make those jokes work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On Parks, it was so beautifully written, and the jokes were so terrific. I didn't want to screw any of them up or just not, hit them kind of sideways and flatten them out. I wanted them to work. I remember going and doing something dramatic for the first time after doing
Yeah.
Parks for a while, and it was like, oh yeah, right, this is different.
Yeah.
And having to shift a little bit.
That's exciting, I think, as an actor, because after doing Janine for months straight
Yep.
on Abbott, I remember getting so excited to come do another thing
Yeah.
in a way that almost felt juvenile. I felt like a little kid, like I get to go be someone else today.
Yeah, you're guest starring on Party
Party
Down.
I am, and I was so excited to be there and play
nice.
something so different. I think that's the excitement of acting that I will never get tired of, and makes me, because sometimes I'm trying to think about my future right now, and I'm like, will I just write or, for the rest of my career and eventually stop acting? But
I hope you don't, because you're so good.
Thank you.
And it's what you do on Abbott. By the way, just what you do on Party Down, the character you play is so vastly different.
It's
than
so different.
Janine. It's so different.
It's so different.
But just as relaxed and connected as you are on Abbott. And it's what you do on your show is really difficult, which is you're connecting with all the characters and everything, but you're also inviting the audience in to everything you're feeling, and you make it look super easy, but
Thanks,
that's really
Anna.
hard.
Thank you.
It's so good.
Thank
and
you.
something else I want to say about
I studied you guys on
Parks?
Parks. Yeah, yes, 100%. I can't even front. Like, weirdly, Abbott gets compared to The Office a lot. I would say it's a little bit closer to Parks. It is sitting somewhere in the middle, and we knew that from the beginning. But I always thought in The Office, the goal was not to invite,
Yeah,
right? Nobody there except for, like, Michael was inviting.
right.
And his was done in, lack of self-awareness.
Sure.
But in Parks, everyone felt very inviting.
Sure.
Tom, you, as it grew, it grew
Yeah.
to being you. Leslie, clearly. I just thought more characters there were like, yeah, welcome to our story.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think that I studied a lot of that for Janine, the welcome to our story.
Yeah,
people.
that's really what I connect with so much with your show, and your performance at the center of it is just how invited in I feel watching it, and how connected I am to it. And I wonder if part of it is that I miss Parks and I miss my friends on Parks.
Yeah.
And not that the show feels like directly like Parks, but I think what I get from it is that you guys are all loving working on it so much.
Yeah.
And that's the way we felt
Yeah.
on Parks and Rec. And,
Yeah.
and so that's I feel like I'm dipping back into that feeling when I watch the show, which is really
that.
nice.
I love that people can find love from different places.
Yeah.
Okay. I think as the first joint hosted
That's right.
show in history between non-television show hosts, this was a success.
This was, I think, excellent, and I think as far as pilot episodes for global talk shows, it was very good.
Pretty good. Variety, give us a good rating.
Please.
Yes, thank you.